Hi guys, so I thought I'd come on because there's a lot of dilemmas about this body positivity and intuitive eating, and some people are not even know what we're talking about as fitness professionals as we're saying this to you. And then you've got other people that are screaming at others saying that no, you must not mention the word fat and you must not mention the word losing weight anymore. But there's dilemmas with that from our point of view when we're in the fitness industry, because we're at this kind of transitional period and not everyone knows about body positivity, the body positivity era that's coming in, and the intuitive eating that's coming in. So we have to make the change, and making the change, we still have to revert back to the old language of weight loss and fat loss and losing the pounds and stripping the abs and and all those sort of things to sort of get attention so that we can educate people further down the line as to how this is moving and how we encourage. And actually nothing's ever changed, just the wording of it has changed. In the line that we take in the fitness industry, most of us anyway, we would be be recommending that people are working out not to make themselves look better at the top of the list, but to make themselves feel better, to make themselves have more energy, to understand that it's good for the headspace, all those type of things. And then when you look at the intuitive eating, people haven't got a clue when I say those things to them. What's intuitive eating and how am I going to do this? And actually I'm totally confused when you say intuitive eating. So it's quite difficult to be pulling away from weighing yourself, logging food, and just going with intuitive eating, like how full am I today and what do I fancy to eat, because until you make the transition and you give people a list of foods to eat, to advise them on what's good foods, and believe me that some of you are going, oh, we know what's good food. No. A lot of people have no idea what are good foods because it's not their job, because they're not in that field, because they're too busy doing their own work, their own jobs, they're too busy advising other people on other areas of life, and they haven't got time to really look at that area for them. So believe me, a lot of people really don't know what to eat. So if we go on to a couple of factors on this thing about weight loss or fat loss. Do we say weight loss? Do we say fat loss? Why are people saying different? Well, the reason that we say different, weight loss or fat loss, is weight loss can be so many things. If you've noticed in the past and you've stood on the scales and you say, oh my God, I had such the best week and I know I've been really done my best with it and I've been eating healthily, I've had nothing rubbish, haven't had anything at all. Now, some will be screaming here, but you can have rubbish. But believe me, not everyone can. They can't, because it's a trigger food. Some things are a trigger food, a trigger response to make people eat more of that. So we have to identify what are your trigger foods. So going back, the weight loss. The weight loss can be different by if you've had a lot of carbs, if you've had a lot of carbohydrate, if you've traveled and you're storing water, if you're hormonal and you have your monthly cycle is storing water, if you're menopausal, you might be storing more water. If they are if you've had alcohol, when you've had some alcohol, and sometimes you step on the scales the next day and you go, whoa, that dancing really worked, didn't it? But no, 2 days later the alcohol calories will have gone on and then you'll be weighing different. So weight fluctuates so much on the scales, and that's why we kind of don't always want you to focus on the scales. And I prefer to get rid of the scales, but that doesn't mean to say that I don't track in some way. So it's finding out exactly what suits you, and it's okay. So when we look at fat loss is all down to basically people who want to lose fat and keep the muscle in, So people who do sort of a lot of weight training and that type of thing and want to measure the fat content against muscle, then they're often a lot more interested in the fat loss, which at the end of the day comes down to the same thing really, is that we want to be a reduction, and we want to see more lean tissue in our body. So it's great to really look at it and look at the comparisons in that, but really the people are wanting the same thing. That's just some people that are a little bit into their fitness more will be totally looking at the fat loss and will understand that the weight fluctuates on the scale, so they're not really interested in that weight so much, or not as hung up about it. And now you see these people, us, the people who've been training and that for quite a long time, are probably the ones that are now more likely to go chuck the scales away, you don't need them. But those who aren't training, they need a starting point, they need a starting block, they need some advice, and they need some special strong guidance as to where they want to go. Now, not every trainer is going to work for the same people, so that's why it's wonderful that there's millions of us out there now to give advice in different ways, but surely we are all on the same track. So we're all on the same track, trying to help each other, really help each other. And if we're not wanting to help each other, then we're in the wrong business, basically. So going on to the body positivity and stuff, and this intuitive eating, it's very difficult. People say, well, you shouldn't give a shopping list out, and you shouldn't, because you shouldn't cut food groups out, and you shouldn't make people feel like they need to change in any way. But people come and ask us for the change, and the reason that they want the change isn't on the surface really. There's a lot of the underneath stuff that people want to change, and that's what personal training is about listening and working with the client, bringing them towards you, whichever way it is. If that person says, I want to lose weight, and you think that they don't need to lose weight, or maybe you think that they are, underneath the guidelines of healthy person, obese, and maybe they don't want to lose weight. You can't tell them what they need, what they want. You've got to wait till they come to you. But it's not something that you should push away because they say, like, I want to lose weight, I want to lose fat. It's not something you need to throw straight back at them, that, listen, we don't say that anymore, it's intuitive eating, go away, leave us alone. No, you bring them to you, you encourage them to understand that your body's a wonderful thing, it's serving you really well, and the more positive you look at your body, the more likely it is that you're going to have a healthy body and a healthy mind with that in the long term. But it's small steps, it's small stages, and by sometimes doing an elimination diet, you understand the foods that aren't giving you a tolerance. So if I hadn't ever done an elimination diet, I never found out that dairy was something that had been really aggravating me for years, but because I loved it so much, yogurt honey, it's healthy, yogurt honey fruit, it's healthy. No, it isn't for some people. So there are places where you need to cut some food groups out for a while, so you can understand if that's one of the things that is irritating you, if that's one of the things that's putting you back. Will it stop you losing weight? Yeah, it can do, because if you're in agony with like dairy produce you've been taking in, and then suddenly you're there, you'll think, oh, forget it, this is making me ill, and you start to eat some rubbish instead, and too much of it. Or if you have a trigger stuff like I dare open a pot of ice cream, I can eat a lot because it's a trigger food. It's a trigger food to me. It's sweet. Now you can say, have a bit every day, put it to the side. No chance. Not a chance in hell. It doesn't work. So I have to cut it all together. So listen, when you're trying to think about it going forward, sometimes have a broad mind on it. Not everything works for the same people. Different things work for different people. So have a broad mind while we're going through a transition into body positivity and intuition meeting. So I hope it explains a bit for you. And put your comments down below. What do you think?